Good Morning Pensacola. Andrew McKay and the Pensacola Morning News starts right now.
Meanwhile, the war against Juana's Pagodas. This is the weirdest. I don't know what to make of it. And, I try to tell you when I understand a thing, and I try to tell you when I don't understand a thing. And this is definitely one of those, I don't understand. So Juana's Pagodas is in the middle of a 30-year lease right now. And it's not a lease. It's the county owns the land. This is the cool place that everybody loves over there on the beach in Navarre. And they do spring jam. I mean, they just all kinds of stuff, okay? And they've grown from a little tiny one-hut operation, one pagoda, over the years when they had a 1-year deal, and then they had a 3-year deal, and then they had I think it was a 10 and then a 15, and now they're in the middle of a 30, and they got 11 years left in their 30-year deal. And the nature of the deal is we pay you 5% of our gross receipts. 5% of the gross, that's a lot, okay? That's like $300,000 a year. And several $1 million over the course of the last decade. So they pay that in lieu of renting the land, okay? So instead of having a lease or rental agreement, they pay. And they kind of wind up working for the county, weirdly, in a way. And then any improvements they make to the land, like all the pagodas, belong to the county, okay? And they put about $2.5 million into that over the years. And what they want is they have an opportunity to get some solar panels from the subsidized by the federal government. But in order to do that, they need to have a longer-term deal so that they can, not only get financing, but also get basically the approval for the grant. So they want to extend out the deal again. They want to start now and go out 30 years, and which is a very normal business request, okay? But James Calkins was having none of it. Just completely opposed to this deal, which is not in his district. He's in the north and, north end of the county. But he's very upset about this, and he says, the short version of his, his opposition of this is, well, that's just too long, and it's a no-bid contract because we're letting you renew out the terms of your lease when we're not allowing other people to bid on it. Who knows? Somebody else might come in and bid 10%. Nobody's going to bid 10%. Not anybody can run a business, okay? But that's what he wants. He thinks that this is all inappropriate.
Well, my thoughts is, you're now coming to ask us for a no-bid contract. And other folks could come up and say, hey, I'll give you 10%. Hey, I'll buy my own solar panels. I mean, y'all got a great deal.
And the county gets a great deal. And the citizens get a great service. And everybody is happy except for you, sir. The only one who's upset about this. And then just seems to misunderstand, is it, you keep 95% of your money. And the owner of Juana, I think this was Mike, was there talking to him about this and saying, sir, you just don't understand. And, you should just pay for your own solar panels. Why would we do that? That makes no sense. If the government's going to help subsidize it, the federal government, then this was actually an argument, is I just don't like that you're applying for a grant from the feds.
I'm for any business making millions of dollars. That's the American way. That's the American dream. But I think that y'all should buy your own solar panels, to be honest, instead of,
What sense does that make, Commissioner?
What sense does that make when the money's available? So there's a bunch of drama over this question, and, James Calkins keeps calling it a no-bid contract and a sweetheart deal, and, they're getting too much of a benefit. And so I don't know whether he's trying to pretend to be some uber conservative ahead of the election. I don't know whether he's trying to make a principled point. I mean, he actually said at one point, you ought to only have 3-year contracts on stuff like this. 3 years? For a business that tries to secure loan funding? What are you talking about? Or if it's like he's got a personal problem with Juana's. I just don't know which of those it is. It's one of those. Maybe it's a combination of those. I couldn't figure it out. It makes no sense. It's weird. Should they be granted an extension of their current remainder 11 years out to 30 years, so a plus 19 years to their current deal, in order to qualify for the solar panel subsidy, in order to qualify for current and or future possible business loans that they might get, especially if they have to recover from a storm? Who's going to give them like an SBA loan or a 15-year loan to pay that they're not going to be around? They can't guarantee they'd be. There's all kinds of stuff here, okay? So Colton Wright says, if it's a no-bid contract that's inappropriate, then Tom Danhauser would object, and he's not objecting. Accurate. They've invested $2.5 million in this property. Okay, he says...
How much money do you think you've invested in assets, in fixed assets that you can't just pick up and leave, right? The buildings themselves over those years.
Several million.
That's $2.5 million.
To $2.5 million.
That would be the replacement cost.
So here we have a business, and in my opinion, this is the perfect example of a public-private partnership.
I agree. I mean, it really is. Everybody's winning. And plus, somebody who can come in and say they're going to give you 10% of their gross receipts and still make a viable business out of it, unlikely. I mean, very, very unlikely. And the problems that this is going to cause Juana's if they don't get this extension. Now, it's true. They're not entitled to the extension. And it's true they're not entitled to keep doing the business in the sense that past the 11 years, they don't even own the $2.5 million worth of improvements. The county owns that. But James Calkins seems to be of the opinion that what he wants to do is, wait out the 11 years or put it up for a rebid now. And then Juana's won't own that $2.5 million of infrastructure, and the county can just kind of take possession of that. And we don't care about what you've done all these years. We don't care about you and your business and your clients and the happiness of the customer. But we're going to sort of seize your industry, and we're going to use it for our own purposes, which doesn't sound a lot like capitalism to me. It sounds a lot like the other kind of C version of a political economic system.
I don't know how anyone could claim to be, a pro-business capitalist American and then not understand what it's like to pour your heart and soul and money into a business and then effectively be asked, Commissioner Calkins, please don't key your mic yet, and then be asked to just walk away or effectively say, you can't really ask for any funding from a bank, you can't do any serious improvements, you can't put solar panels on your roof, you can't go after a government grant unless you will just pay it all out of pocket.
Right. It's not a viable business model. And as Colton explains,
as the only person on this board who has built a business from nothing to something over 20 years, has spent that kind of money in fixed assets and building something.
Yeah, he's understands because he's built his business, the Tool Shack, right? He has done this. Well, that triggered James Calkins.
As a matter of fact, I was a business owner myself. I had a beach chair business out on Navarre Beach. And you know how much I paid? And I did just fine. I paid 20% to those high rises. Boy, if I could get a deal for 5%, I mean, that would be a smoking deal. Juana's has got a smoking deal, and this is a good old boy situation where you're trying to sell out our county.
Yeah, what was your level of infrastructure? What were your costs? What were your employees?
Yeah, I'm wondering what the overhead is on a beach chair rental service.
They're exactly the same. They're completely different.
We should have no contracts more than 3 years.
Make it stop. Please, Colton Wright, make him stop.
I think it's ludicrous to say we should do 3-year contracts. You wouldn't find anyone that can do math that would make the effort to do a contract with the county for 3 years that's going to be in business. You can't do it. Maybe you can do it if you've just got some cheap beach chairs and some umbrellas and no employees. But I don't see how you can. There's no financial way, unless you're already extremely wealthy to begin with, and you just have money to set on fire, why you would take a 3-year contract with the county and invest money in assets and capital assets like that. It's no one in business would do that. It just doesn't make sense.
Unless you have a cheap beach chair business. Oh, and then, again, James Calkins kind of raising a stink about this, and it's a bizarre one because everybody loves Juana's. Everybody appreciates Juana's. They're revenuing $300,000+ a year to the county. I mean, it's 100 jobs. It's just hard to figure out what his deal is, why he's so bothered by this, and which is, again, whenever somebody's doing things that don't make sense, you always ask the question, well, is there another motive? You know what I mean? Is there some personal animus? Is there a relational problem? Did they tell him his cat was ugly 5 years ago? I don't know. I don't know. I try to speculate because when something doesn't make sense, you're left asking that question. Colton Wright was actually so frustrated with all this, he said,
okay, maybe what I'm hearing is maybe you guys should have asked after August 20th. Maybe that's what I'm hearing right now.
Maybe you should ask after August 20th, the primary. Maybe you should come back and ask when James Calkins is a lame duck if he loses the primary to Rhett Rowell or Jerry Cooey. So they kind of put this on hold pending what Ray Eddington is going to figure out. He's the district commissioner, but it was just such a weird, inexplicable. I mean, the Juanas guy was irritated at James. I am too. I would be angry if I were them too. I'm like, you keep saying ridiculous things. And again, that kind of, they went in there, it seemed like, with a little level of, animosity. So that makes me wonder if there's some past grievance or something. I don't know if it's Festivus or what. Somebody texts in and says, maybe James has got a buddy that wants to operate the business there instead, and that's what he's doing. I have no evidence of anything like that. But you're kind of left to speculate in a situation where it just doesn't add up.